The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How you doing, Sam?
Hello, hello. Happy June. I'm doing very well. We are enjoying the relative peace of about a week off before the NBA Finals. At this point, we're only a few days away until the NBA Finals begin. Some people are losing their minds. You know, I think there's all sorts of stuff that happens when the NBA pauses. We're going to see it again in a few weeks after the draft, after the craziness of free agency. Once you're in that real period of no basketball, a lot of people don't know how to fill the void. And people are discovering all sorts of ways to fill the void right now, man. Have you seen some of the WNBA Caitlin Clark discourse?
Yeah.
I don't want to get into any of it today, but just to exemplify the fact that there are people out there who are losing their minds. And I'm all for it, but that's where we are as a community collectively, I think.
Interest in the WNBA is at an all-time high, and that's pretty cool. And look, it's not like NBA discourse
It's very cool.
Is healthy either.
It's
all a disaster. You talk about sports online,
cool,
you're stepping into the sewers.
I just think it's funny how that the WNBA has speed run the toxicity that has seeped into the NBA online community over slowly but surely over the past 15 years, as long as I've been on the internet talking about basketball, right? And maybe you could say the toxicity was there before that in sports talk radio and you know, the rise of ESPN and all that stuff. But the WNBA in the past 6 months, I don't even want to get into it, man. But just the level of discourse that we've seen over the past couple weeks has been funny. That's all I mean. Yep,
they were really just thrown into the ring, and people are just doing their best to make it less fun. In a lot of cases, we did have some. I don't know if it counts as news. I think because it came from Brian Windhorst, that feels like it counts as news, considering he seems to be the guy that is the most tapped in with the Phoenix Suns right now, and that is that he went on to his podcast and said that the Phoenix Suns plan to re-sign Royce O'Neal. Now, that's not massive news here. We all expected after the trade that they made in the middle of the season that the plan was to keep Royce O'Neal, but now we have basically the most plugged-in guy with the Phoenix Suns saying that their plan is to keep Royce O'Neal, and that's great news, I think, for Suns fans. Now, if you're thinking that Royce O'Neal's not this game-changing player, you're not wrong. But the Suns have very limited flexibility when it comes to free agents, which we're going to get into a lot later on this episode. So in order to sign anyone over a minimum contract, they had to retain them. It's what they did with Grayson Allen, and it's now what they're going to do, hopefully, according to Brian Windhorst, with Royce O'Neal, it seems to be great news for the Suns. What do you think?
It's absolutely great news for the Suns. First of all, it's a massive investment on the part of Matt Ishbia. We just have to admit it, simple as that. So, you know, I think we can debate the particular mathematics and what Royce's specific contract figures are probably going to look like. I think we could take a pretty good guess at this point, just based on where the mid-level exception is going to be, right?
Yeah.
Ishbia in luxury tax is going to be paying many times more than that to retain Royce O'Neal, right? Royce might get a contract figure of $12, $13, $14 million from the Suns this summer to extend. Ishbia's actual contribution towards the league's coffers is going to be much greater than that because of how far above the apron the Suns already are. And so the combination of retaining Grayson Allen, retaining Royce O'Neal, these are not things that we would have ever seen under Robert Sarver, particularly for a team that just got bounced in the first round. Regardless of how you feel about these two players, Grayson and Royce, they are both good players, but it was essential to keep them for the purpose of flexibility moving forward, because we know of how restrictive the second apron rules are, how difficult it will be for the Suns to make trades. They can't take back a dollar more than they send out. They can't aggregate salaries. We've been all over all of that stuff on the podcast already. kind of in our offseason primer. So Royce is going to be important to this team, either physically here, continuing to be the 6th, 7th, 8th man type player he is, who can, knock down threes, put the ball on the floor a little bit, play defense, or at some point, if they extend him, he's going to be flipped for something.
Yeah.
And, I think regardless of which scenario we end up seeing, it's critical that they kept him either way.
And it's important to think about it that way, that he is essentially going to be a trade asset for the future, because the overall number of what you might see when it comes to Royce O'Neal is probably going to feel like an overpay, and in a lot of ways for the Suns that could be a good thing, right? You mentioned the MLE number, the anticipated MLE number for 2024-2025 is $12.859 million. So the ideal scenario with somebody like Royce O'Neal is at the very least in his first year, he is signed for over that amount, because the Suns cannot make any trades that they take back any additional salary than what they send out. So he should be signed for over that amount. So ideally he's signed for over that. Now that means that he could be signed for 13, 14 million, like you said, for any number of years. What will be interesting to me to see is if it's 3 years, if it's, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 years. It's probably not going to be any further than that. If that's how long it is.
For a contract, for a player of this caliber, he's not getting a 4-year contract.
A little older of a player, not a game changer. How much will be guaranteed is my first question. Because is it going to be a fully guaranteed contract throughout the entire time? Maybe it has to be, right? Because the Suns are essentially trying to convince him to stay. Maybe he has other offers somewhere else with more guaranteed money.
Great point.
So, maybe it's not, though. Maybe they find a way to guarantee $13 million in the first year, $2 million in the second year.
Yep.
So that way, if Royce O'Neal is on the trade block at some point before the trade deadline this year, they have the ability of essentially trading him as an expiring deal for a team that's maybe looking to either shed some salary or get rid of a player that doesn't really fit their timeline, so that they can get somebody back in that case. So to me, the number's going to be interesting. I have a feeling it's going to be more than that. I think the ideal scenario, if I'm being honest, is the anticipated 25-26 MLE is $13.5 million. The ideal scenario is this first year is more than the MLE this year, and the second year, 25-26, is more than the MLE that year. I'm not sure if they can structure it that way, but
they can, and they will. That's really all it is you're looking to be able to potentially pair him up with guys who are on the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, or because one of the things the Suns can do, you can't trade multiple players for one guy, but you can trade one guy for multiple players. They could trade a guy for someone on the taxpayer mid-level exception and then a rookie contract going forward. They're going to figure all this out. Who was just hired to be our cap guy? What's his name again?
Matty Tellem.
I already forgot. Matty Tellem. DJ Matty Tellem. I can't believe I forgot him already. So DJ Matty Tellem on the beat. He's going to be whipping up something crazy.
3-team trades
in the Suns war room.
I was really trying to channel Matty Tellem, because later in this episode, Sam and I took trades, Sam took free agency. We're gonna pitch versions of that to each other. So Sam's gonna give me free agent names, and I'm gonna pitch trades at him, trying to convince him to see if there's any way that he would be interested in trading a pick for this team this year, and we'll see how that goes. So I was really trying to channel DJ Matty.
Look, before we move on from Royce, though, I just want to say you also made a really good point about the fact that it's probably going to have to be, or maybe it will be, fully guaranteed money on that contract, because I don't know who Royce's agent is off the top of my head, but like if I'm Royce's agent, I'm thinking right now, the Suns kind of need Royce to stay more than Royce needs them. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, even if the Suns don't, if you're Royce and you're coming to the negotiating table, you can come in with the mindset of, even if you don't necessarily value me as a player, and they should, and you value me more as a trade asset, like the cost of him leaving is so great for this team. They can't replace Royce O'Neal's value with just a minimum contract guy. It's very unlikely that they could do it. So Royce should ask for a fully guaranteed 3-year contract if he can get it. Yeah. That's sort of the trade-off, right? Is he's coming in to next season, he's saying, okay, look, I understand that I'm looking around the locker room and it's me, it's Grayson, it's Yusuf Nurkic if he's still there. Those are the guys that can be traded.
Yeah.
Nazir Little, like, I understand that that's my role, but you're going to give me this fully guaranteed bag.
So the question is,
otherwise we're not doing this.
Let's say, what would he get if he was on the actual free agency market? I don't think he would get the standard MLE. for 3 years. You know, I just think that's just beyond what he could get if the Suns decided that they were not interested. Could he get the room MLE for 3 years? You know, something around $25 million over 3 years. These contracts, by the way, if you're an NBA fan, just get used to them sounding insane. They're only going to go up. They're only going to sound more and more insane. I know the idea of Royce O'Neal making 20-something million is crazy, but that's the reality that we're living in.
Well,
for the Suns, could they structure a deal where they give him 3 years, $13 million a year, so approximately $40 million, where $24 million of that is guaranteed. So essentially what he would have gotten on the room MLE, but now he's making more with the potential of making even more if the team that he's traded to, if he ever gets traded, decides to pick up that option. So there are ways to structure it to where he's getting the money that he would have been guaranteed elsewhere, but the Suns still have some level of flexibility maybe on that third year as a non-guaranteed.
That's great. But then I'm saying, Matt Ishbia, are you about it or are you not about it? I'm saying, are you not the man who just came in here swinging your thing around? Are you made of money? And, you know, I'm still going to try and get the fully guaranteed contract for Royce if that's, you know, but if they could get, to your point, if they could get like half to even a third of that money being non-guaranteed, that's great for the Suns. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
It is.
I think it would be a nice situation for them to have the ability of potentially trading him. You know, like it's the Jock Landale deal, right? It's what Jock Landale signed with Houston. It was $8 million a year for 3 years, but only the first year was guaranteed. Jock played well enough, I think, by the second half of the season that he probably is going to get $8 million next year. Like, there's a good chance. And if he's traded, they have to fully guarantee that money for him. So that's how it works for trades. So they have the ability of doing that as well. So there's options that could be worked into his contract. Quickly, I do want to mention, we talked about the coaches that the Phoenix Suns hired on our last Patreon episode. If you haven't listened, check that out. If you'd like to join, you can. But no big news, I think, when it comes to assistant coaches. Not a lot of hot takes when it comes to guys that we really know nothing about. But the Suns are starting to Coach Bud is starting to fill out his coaching staff. We did get some more information on that, and that is that he did ask Darvin Ham to join his staff. Coach Bud, Darvin Ham, a former assistant coach with Bud for the Bucks, and Darvin Ham decided, I need a year off after coaching the Los Angeles Lakers. So if anyone was sort of following this assistant coaching saga with the Phoenix Suns, no Darvin Ham. He wants a year off. Any thoughts on that?
Credit to him for understanding understanding that he needs a break and giving himself that space. I think It's a really hard thing to do, especially when you're coming off this job where, you were in Los Angeles and you had to deal with the LA media and you had to deal with LeBron James. Not that I think LeBron James is a diva like maybe other people think, or, I don't know. It's kind of like a classic boomer basketball take.
Yeah.
But just that, like, when he says that that's a taxing job with certain expectations, you kind of believe him. And even in an assistant role, the Suns' job has the potential to be fairly taxing with pretty high expectations as well. So, I think maybe some people were disappointed about this because obviously Ham has head coaching experience. But the truth of the matter is it's just hard to convince guys with head coaching experience to take assistant jobs once they've been in the head seat. Getting them to step back down is just not something you're always going to be successful at doing. What we know is that we still have David Fizdale as an assistant. He's stayed on. And he has head coaching experience. I don't know how Suns fans feel about him after being with the team for the past year. And Bud has also hired a trio of former guys who he's worked with at the assistant level. Chad Forcier, Vince LaGarza, and Chasen Allen, I believe is how you say the last one's name, who was the head coach of the Milwaukee G League team most recently. So, not names that I expect a ton of people to be familiar with, but it's coming along. We have a semblance of a staff at this point.
Yeah, I don't really care if I've heard of the assistant coaches because last season just gave me a new perspective on coaching in general, where it's just like whoever can get the job done. I don't care. If I've never heard of them, fine. If their Instagram handle is NBA coaching, you know what? Even better. That sounds like a guy who knows how to coach.
Well, I can't remember if it was a main feed episode or a Patreon episode a couple weeks ago, but when we were talking about the G League team and you were talking about how we could build an infrastructure at the G League level that includes the coaching staff. It's not just about the players who are at the G League level. It's also about the coaching staff. And I looked it up, and it was like if you went back and looked at all of the G League coaches of the year from 10 years ago, it was guys like Nick Nurse and Chris Finch and guys who are like mainstays of the NBA now. It's very much like looking at
Quinn
this
Snyder.
as the future generation. Yeah, the future generation of coaching.
Yeah.
Is Chasen Allen going to be that? I don't know. He could be.
Who
but
knows, yeah.
like it, just like we talk about developing prospect talent, any capable organization also develops people.
Yeah.
So that applies to coaches as well, who are guys in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and not necessarily former head coaches who you would have heard a lot more about.
Happy to see Coach Bud starting to put his staff together. Interested to see where it goes from here, if they have any other guys that they're planning on adding, or if this is the last news that we hear about it for a while. So we'll find out on that pretty soon, I imagine.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
Let's talk about NBA free agency first. Okay, so the plan for this last part of the podcast, the chunk of the podcast that we're getting to now, is that, like I said, I did some fake trades. Sam created a list of NBA free agents, and we're going to talk about both of them. But before we get to us throwing those names back and forth at each other, let's talk about NBA free agency as a whole. Now, the Suns are not players in free agency this year. They don't have cap space. There are a few teams that can have cap space. The Philadelphia 76ers, I think, are the team that can create the most and has the most flexibility going into this offseason. So, yes, and I'm gonna throw it to you because you did all the research on this one.
Yeah, there's 6 teams. I mean, if you're looking at max cap space, it's less than this. But like, if you're just talking about who is capable of creating the without like doing a salary dump trade or something, that right? Who is really capable of creating enough cap space to sign a player worth like $20 million or more a year? That's kind of the tier that we're looking at. And the Suns are not in that tier, but sometimes it's just interesting to talk about the landscape for a few minutes. We're NBA fans. We're not just Suns fans. I always think back to like, obviously the classic LeBron original decision summer of 2010. And it's just like, it can be frustrating, but it can also be fun to have those moments in NBA history where guys, switch teams and it really feels like the landscape changes. The alignment of the conferences changes too. I don't think this summer, Mike, not to spoil anything for you, I don't think this summer is going to be one of those summers.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be one of those summers. I mean, LeBron he has a player option. And so he could become a free agent.
That's true.
But doesn't hold the same impact that he did in, say, the summer of 2010. Also, I strongly suspect that this entire Bronny story that we've talked about previously is just to get the Lakers to take him with the 17th pick, get him some guaranteed money, and then LeBron, once he's used his leverage on the organization, will sign an extension there or pick up his option. That's what I suspect with LeBron. But in terms of what could some of these other teams do, so we've got Philly is probably the most interesting team with major cap space. OKC, though, up there too. OKC has a lot of cap space. They also have a lot of picks. And of course, they don't just need to use that cap space on a free agent. They could use it to absorb a really good player via trade. So the number of options that they have available to them is pretty ridiculous. The Orlando Magic could be a really interesting player for the first time in a long time. How many players want to go live in Orlando? I don't know. I mean, the Florida, like on the one hand, small market. On the other hand, lack of income tax because it's Florida. That's something that matters to players. Maybe that doesn't give them the same bump that Miami does, but it should mean something. And more importantly to me, they're a good team now.
Yeah.
Like they've proven that they're a good team. They have young talent. That young talent is getting better. It would be interesting to see if one of these big free agents takes a chance on a team like Orlando. Utah, another team, kind of up and coming, kind of bad in the Western Conference right now with how much competition there is, but maybe someone takes a chance on them. And then towards the bottom, we have Detroit and San Antonio. San Antonio can't create max space, not without dumping off some of their contracts, but they do have some space to add some additional talent, real talent, alongside Victor Wembanyama that could make them more competitive as early as next season. So those are the players. And then here are just some of the most interesting names. Just give me a quick take, Mike. I'm going to throw these at you. If there's any of those teams I mentioned that feel like a match to you, or just, LeBron, do you have any take other than that he's probably going back to the Lakers?
No, not really.
Yeah,
I don't think, of course he'd be interesting next to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, but I don't think he's going to move to Philadelphia. I think he probably, if he were to go anywhere, it would probably be as close to Los Angeles as possible. If I'm, trying desperately to, like, if you could trade Kevin Durant for him, for example, that would be.
Oh, God.
No, that's not one of my trades, but it is legal. I did check. Because Kevin Durant makes like $500,000 more than him, and they are not a second apron team right now.
KD's also just better at this point.
He probably is, but he just,
I wouldn't do it.
LeBron's better at a lot of things. So yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. He's going back to the Lakers.
Then we move on to the other guy with an option, and that's Paul George, who I know we've mentioned previously too. We talked about Paul George and the Sixers.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that realigns the Eastern Conference in any type of way if Paul George ended up on the Sixers? But do we really feel that way? I wanted to bring this up to you because, like, Paul George, this is not a groundbreaking stat. People should know this if they follow the NBA, but he spent 5 seasons in LA. It's crazy to me that it's already been 5 years, but I guess that's just like the Paul George, Kawhi era in LA has been the COVID times. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what it's been. And in those 5 years, Paul George has averaged 53 games played per season with the Clippers. Yeah. He is now 34 years old, and he's going to be probably looking for another contract for the next 4 years, valued at $40+ million a year.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
That's a good point.
Is it still worth it? He's a great player.
But I guess the question is
a top 20 player
now
anymore.
You haven't read all the names yet, and the Sixers could use, especially with teams going in the second apron, they could, or trying to avoid any sort of apron situation, they could use that space to just trade for guys too. They don't necessarily need to sign guys, but my question would be, what are the other options for a team like Philadelphia? Because they essentially would have the young talent, right, in Tyrese Maxey, the current superstar, in Joel Embiid, and then sort of the aging all-star in Paul George.
They can afford to take a gamble on an older guy who is not Tobias Harris, is what you're saying.
And yeah, he's a lot better than Tobias Harris, man.
No,
like,
he absolutely is.
So,
I'll tell you this. This next guy who's an unrestricted free agent is certainly not going to Philadelphia, and his name is James Harden.
That's true. That's true.
James Harden is a free agent. James Harden was, I think, better than Paul George in their first-round series loss.
That is fact. Can you read the teams again that have cap space?
It's Detroit, Philly, Orlando, Utah, OKC, San Antonio.
God, there are no interesting teams. James Harden's career is in such an interesting place where it's hard to envision him on any of those teams and it be fun. Like, I could see a world where him on the Spurs, if he wasn't James Harden, just his skill set on the Spurs could be awesome.
Well, the problem is James Harden sucks. The problem is James Harden sucks to watch, like objectively sucks to watch, but he's still also really good. I think he's still a more impactful player than Paul George, to be honest, because his game was never like so entirely overly reliant on athleticism. He still shoots, obviously, but like the downhill impact of James Harden, even at, I don't know what his age is now. I got to look it up. But his downhill impact, his ability to get to the rim, put guys on his body, and play through physicality at his age is still there. It's really impressive, the fact that it's still there. And is he a grifter? Yes, he's absolutely a grifter.
I don't know if it's still there.
His
shots in the like close to the restricted area, just outside of it, where he used to be his bread and butter. That's going away for him. It's just
no. Don't get me wrong. It's not. I mean, it's not 2016, 2018 James. Like, it's not that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, if I had to choose between, he's also 34 years old, by the way. If I had to choose between paying $40 million to James Harden or Paul George, I don't know. I might be tempted to take James Harden, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
Here are other guys
Either
who
way,
are
they're disappearing in the playoffs.
You're right. Other guys who are unrestricted free agents. This is a guy you like a lot, Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, actually, I liked him a little bit more after, before this year. But I do think that he did enough that he's gonna, and they traded enough for him that I'm sure he's just gonna stay in Indiana. I can't imagine him going somewhere else at this point.
Yeah, I can't imagine that there's really playing next to Halliburton is such a perfect scenario, I think, for him. It is fun maybe to imagine, like, what if he went over to Orlando and you just had this massive lineup of wings who can also dribble.
None of them
Pascal
can shoot threes.
And Franz and Paolo, and none of them could shoot threes. But yeah, it would be like the new Toronto Raptors, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Can someone save DeMar DeRozan
How
from
old
from the Chicago Bulls? I'll pull that up for you right now. He is. Hold on.
That seems like
he's also 34. These are all 34-year-old guys.
That's interesting. That just seems like an absolute desperation. We didn't get Paul George moved by the Philadelphia 76ers there, right? Where they can get him for maybe $30 million for a few years instead of, going $40 to $50 million for a absolute max contract.
DeMar DeRozan, in his age 34 season, played 79 of 82 games. He led the league in minutes per game at 38. He averaged 24 points, 4.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.1 steals, only 1.7 turnovers, really good ratio. Continues to be a mid-range bucket. Continues his free throw rate, like his ability to create free throws specifically, has not dipped at all. Unlike for Paul George and James Harden, two guys who are 34 years old, here's DeMar DeRozan, and because he can't shoot, I guess you could say he has can't shoot threes, I guess you could say he has no other choice but to continue to slash. But he keeps getting to the free throw line like clockwork.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of felt bad for DeMar DeRozan because of the way things ended in Toronto and being replaced by Kawhi and the fact that they immediately won without him. And I know he's a very flawed player, but I do like him, and I wonder if there's a team that can figure out how to use DeMar DeRozan as like really an integral piece, making a deep playoff run. That's kind of interesting to me. So the problem is a lot of these teams need shooting, like a team like OKC. I guess OKC could probably, like, what about DeMar DeRozan replacing Josh Giddey, right? Isn't that a massive upgrade?
It's really fascinating. Doesn't really fix the 3-point shooting, but he's a better 3-point shooter, regardless of if he's going to do it, than Josh Giddey, right? That's really interesting. I don't think they would
Other
do that,
guys.
though. It just feels like it dramatically changes what their team is.
Yeah, that's sort of the end of the quote-unquote star players.
By the way, DeMar DeRozan, incredibly clutch last year. There's a whole highlight of the clutch shots he made last year alone. If you want to find it online, I haven't seen it, but I watched it happen during the season. He was a bucket in the clutch.
I'd still much rather have 34-year-old DeMar, just for the next, like, in a vacuum right now, next season, than Zach LaVine right now, supposedly in his prime, who like theoretically his trade value has plummeted and the Bulls are just
he
trying
was
to get
better.
off him.
Yeah, no, he's just a better player. I mean, Zach LaVine is not.
He's a smarter player.
Yeah, and he was just
it is.
better this year. He's just like top to bottom better as a player.
A few interesting. I'll close out here with a trio of guys who I think are interesting role player type unrestricted free agents who I think could make good money, but like wouldn't be, one of your top 2 or 3 scorers. Malik Monk has gotten better every year for Sacramento. I think he's like 25 now, coming off a season where he averaged 15 and 5. Shoots, doesn't turn the ball over.
Wants money. Right?
Wants money.
Yeah.
I don't know if the money is there for someone. I mean, like, unless Detroit is going to be like, shit,
Orlando.
We can't get anyone else. Should we throw $25 million at Malik Monk? Yeah, I suppose Orlando's this could
kind
be a
of
good fit for
interesting.
Malik
Yeah,
Monk.
they desperately need someone to.
Or San Antonio, just like they need more guys who get buckets probably.
Yeah.
Nick Claxton, he's good.
Yeah, and I should mention too, there's a salary floor this year. Every team has to get up to 90% of the overall cap. There's guys that are going to get money that maybe you don't expect them to get a lot of money. Claxton's probably one of those guys that's going to get paid.
Yeah.
Even if it's just 1 year. Like, there might be shorter deals because of that salary floor than we've seen before, where a team's just like, we got to get to the salary floor, give this guy $20 million for 1 year or whatever, and then maybe get off of that later.
It was interesting. You were talking about the way that OKC plays and maybe not wanting to change it too much, but could OKC throw a bag at Nick Claxton just to say, okay, we did what you guys wanted. We have a center.
Like we have a real
skinny,
center now. That's funny.
He is still so still so skinny. Like if that's your Jokic stopper, that's not an effective Jokic stopper. But he is a real center, and then like you could have lineups where you say, okay, we did what you guys wanted. We're going to play Chet at the 4 a little bit more, and maybe like hybrid it back and forth between those two guys. They could choose to go that route, or they could just go for a much cheaper center who's not going to cost them $20 million. The other center is Isaiah Hartenstein, who performed really well for the Knicks this year. I don't really know what his value is, to be honest. I like him a lot, but I still think he has just some fatal flaws. Maybe like if a team really wanted to pay him to be like their above average starting center, I don't know. But he's good.
I think OKC could afford that. Just how many of their good guys are still in their rookie deals? They'd be fine. It's a good team to sign him. Actually, I think that would be really interesting.
So there you have it. That is a look. Just for anyone else who is curious, for anyone else who has not researched the best names in NBA free agency heading into July of this year. Where's DeMar DeRozan going to go? Where's Paul George going to go? Where's Nick Claxton going to go? Whatever.
And now a whole bunch of minimum contracts.
I don't feel like the Suns are missing out too much.
No, it's not the worst year to not have cap space. That's very true.
But yes, now we get to the names that maybe the Suns will be able to afford. So this is like our intro primer. Free agency is still a month away. This is only the first time we're talking about free agency. It's not the last time we'll talk about free agency. So I did a first pass going through my list of free agents, just putting a little asterisk next to all the guys who I thought could be interesting on my first. And of course, among the guys who I thought maybe could realistically be signed for a minimum. I wasn't putting an asterisk next to Malik Monk saying, oh yeah, Malik Monk would be great on the Suns for $2 million. So on my first pass, I highlighted 15 names.
Okay.
I'm not going to throw 15 names at you today because that sounds exhausting, and I think even the listeners would start to tune out if I threw 15 names. I'm just going to throw a few names.
Yeah, give me like 2 to 3 at a time, or whatever you want to do, and then we can get through all 15 if you wanted to. I have like 5 to 6 trades that we can go through too as well. So we're gonna have to find a way to go back and forth. I don't want this episode. Well, how about I'll do a trade and you give me 2 free agent names. We'll go back and forth like that.
We could trade back and forth. Okay, cool. Do you want to start with your trade?
We just did free agency. Let's do 2 free agent guys just to really highlight the difference between those guys and what the Suns are looking at. So you first.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm going first. I misunderstood what you meant. Okay. All right. Fuck. I gotta find my list again now. I changed tabs. Okay. Let's start with point guard. Okay.
So the Suns are looking at a backup point guard. They do need a point guard. Obviously, it's going to be a backup player if you're going with the minimum market here.
Yes, they need a backup point guard. Some would still say they need a starting point guard even. But I am content just with a backup point guard. I think what Bud is looking for, I think what James Jones is looking for, they're looking for a backup point guard. Someone who can come in, run the show, maybe hit some spot-up threes, not turn the ball over, hopefully isn't like a complete burger on defense. But then you know what I said to myself, Mike, as I was looking through this list, and there are some other I have a bunch of point guards listed, but where I'm going to start is I said, you know what? What if we could get a point guard who's all of those things, but then gives you some real veteran leadership in the locker room to boot, a guy who's a voice that others will respect and listen to. I'm not talking about Chris Paul, by the way,
of course,
because some people have talked about Chris Paul.
Technically not a free agent right now.
Exactly. I'm talking about someone who is 38 years old. And he is a free agent. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
I'm talking about Kyle Lowry.
Oh. Yeah.
Kyle Lowry is at an interesting point in his NBA career where, I mean, let me just pull up, like, what was his last contract? He was making $29 million. Yeah. He was waived after a trade from the Heat to the Hornets and then picked up by the Sixers. But he was making basically $30 million this year.
Yeah.
And it's interesting about Kyle Lowry because I think there's a case to be made that some team, some taxpayer MLE team, could swoop in here and give him $6 or $7 million to, so that he could stay in the league for a couple more years. I still think he's probably that good, just in terms of pure value. Mm-hmm. But also, if he's about like a little bit more winning and ring chasing. I know he already has the one from the Raptors, but like if he wants to make an impact on a good team, and his options are going to be a little bit more limited at this point, I think there's also a case to be made that you could have Kyle Lowry, the 38-year-old version, for a veteran minimum contract.
Yeah.
And what we know about Kyle Lowry is basically just exactly what I said. He can still hit threes at a high rate.
Yeah.
He shot 40% from deep last year. He can still pass the ball at a high rate. He doesn't turn the ball over. Are there size issues about, like, you know,
he's sneaky.
Would he be he's sneaky? Would he be a mismatch for some teams that they try and target? Of course. That's just what happens when you employ a 6-foot point guard. But critical point here, Kyle Lowry is a leader. It's in addition to like a guy who's obviously very talented and has been to the All-Star game a bunch of times in his career, throughout his career has been lauded for his ability to be a vocal leader in the locker room and a guy who tells players not necessarily what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. That is my understanding of who Kyle Lowry is. So do you have any opinions on the Suns trying to reel in Kyle Lowry, the 38-year-old, to be their backup point guard?
I mean, to me, that's an obvious yes, just because not only does the Suns team need a point guard, they need a leader. And he seems like a guy that would be a good leader in the locker room. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know. But he's been on a championship team, and he was one of the most important pieces of that championship team. So we know that he's been successful at that level. He's been on the Heat. Whatever you want to say about Heat culture, it is what it is. They were overachievers when he was there. You know?
Yes.
This Suns team, not exactly that last year. An underachiever dramatically. So to me, that's an obvious yes. I don't know how much he has left. Like, it could be a guy you sign and it's like, oh, it's over. You know, but there is a chance that he's still helpful in the locker room.
Yeah, and I think there's also a chance, you know, like the ring chasing conversation is interesting because this is essentially what motivated Eric Gordon to come to the Suns last year, but I think we've had a bit of this conversation before. It might have been easier to convince Eric Gordon last year when you were coming off the second-round loss and you were adding Bradley Beal in tandem. Whereas this year you're coming off a first-round loss, and you know, I think if Kyle Lowry is open to playing for $2 million or $3 million next year, the Suns are not going to be the only ones knocking at his door. Yeah. He's going to have a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
So it's precisely like you said. Does he really have anything left? I still think he does, but it's also possible he doesn't. But there's going to be competition for his services. So I think it would be really fun, though. You know, I think he would be a real veteran leader for this team. And I still think he can run an offense. He wasn't particularly valuable in the playoffs, but you know, that was like a 5-6 game sample. Anything could happen in the playoffs. He's not traditionally a playoff choker, as far as I know.
I like it.
If you need another point guard, you know, just another name I'll throw out there, Cameron Payne. You know, if you need a plan B backup point guard, why did we get rid of Cam Payne in the first place? I know why. It was to bring in Bol, but should we have done that? I'm not sure. You know, and I think
they
that's
could have gotten Bol a different
too.
way. You know, that wasn't the only way to get Bol. They could have not signed Yuta, you know, or something like that. It's Bol wasn't exactly making a ton of money. They could have found a way to do it. But yeah, Cam Payne. By the way, Cam Payne's going to be 30 next year. I mean, it's kind of weird to say that, but he was pretty good.
Cam Payne is 1 year younger than Tobias Harris. We were talking about this the other day on a playback or the Patreon pod or something.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris is like inexplicably only barely on the wrong side of 30, even though it feels like he's been in the league forever.
We know what we're getting with Cam Payne. There wouldn't be these high expectations for him. As far as minimum contract point guards go, that would be a good signing, most likely, as long as he stays healthy. Like, because he's high effort, he gets the ball down the floor fast, he can shoot a catch and shoot three, and he's willing to shoot a catch and shoot three. If your offense relies on him getting to the rim and not getting blocked, well, he's probably not going to do that consistently.
Yeah,
but he can do it sometimes.
His finishing numbers will still be bad, and that is why he's a minimum point guard. And not a starting level point guard, right? But like a lot of the burst and athleticism for a guy who's about to turn 30 is still there. Or did you say did he literally just turn 30?
He's about to, I think.
No, he's about
he's listed
to,
as 29 this last season, yeah.
Yeah, he'll turn 30 in 2 months. So, you know, for a guy who's about to turn 30, still has that burst, still has that ability to play downhill a little bit, create some shots for others, and critically, like you said, can shoot a three. There are other guys who I really like on my list, who I'll bring up on a later episode when we talk about this again. Other point guards who I really like, who are a little bit more defensive-minded, or maybe other guys who can pass, but don't have the three-point shooting. And I think that's a critical piece of it, right? It's just if you're going to bring in a guy, to play next to the big three. And, you understand that even as a point guard, they're not going to have the ball in their hands all the time because of who they're playing next to.
Yeah.
They need to shoot, right? So you don't necessarily want to bring in a guy who shoots 25% from deep to play next to those guys. And Campaign wouldn't. Let's talk trades.
Trades. This is going to be, just going back and forth, and this is going to be a fascinating listen for people, I think. I'm going to give you a choice. Who do you want to be the person being traded out in my first fake trade for you? You know who we're potentially
options?
You know who we're potentially trading here, right?
What I mean by that is, do you have an Allen trade?
I do. I have multiple.
Do you have a Nurkic trade?
Yes, multiple.
And do you have a Little trade?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's start with Nurkic.
All right.
That's where I feel like starting.
Okay. I'm going to go with Jusuf Nurkic and this year's pick. And I know, I'm sorry. Look, I have to take
my
it seriously.
picks!
I have to take it seriously.
Not my picks.
To the Charlotte Hornets.
Okay.
For Grant Williams and either Nick Richards or Mark Williams.
Can you talk me? What's your thinking here?
The
Are
idea
you a Grant
is
Williams
having
fan suddenly
a playable wing that shoots threes and is larger than Royce O'Neal in Grant Williams, can guard up a little bit, and then potentially some version of a playable center. I'm not sure who Charlotte wants to keep, but I do know that they're probably not going to be good next year, and they seem like a team that would be primed for taking on a draft pick to take longer-term money in Jusuf Nurkic.
Either one of those guys would be a playable center. I'll give you that. Like literally the worst starting center or among the worst starting centers in the NBA, but they would be playable and they would be made better by the gravity of the guys around them, right? Like no doubt in my mind, Nick Richards is going to look better next to KD and Book than he is next to, Miles Bridges
and that's it, basically.
And LaMelo when he's healthy, although he never was this season. So yeah, that's not the part I'm worried about sacrificing a pick for necessarily. The Grant Williams part is a bit you're going to have to sell me on, man, because I know you say playable wing, but I think there's something funny about trading for the guy who getting rid of him was the reason that Dallas is in the finals. I know that's not necessarily fair to say, but like there's something funny about being like, oh, we should learn something from this Dallas Mavericks finals run. Let's trade for the guy they dumped in order to get there in the first place. So if I'm going to be sacrificing my pick, I just... Maybe I'm being unrealistic. People can tell me if they think I'm being unrealistic and this is the best we can do. I want to believe we could do better than Grant Williams. Can I get a pick back?
Grant Williams was in the NBA Finals too. Just saying.
Yeah, but he's annoying, man. I mean, maybe we need that.
There's no way we get a pick back, by the way.
Is this your way?
Yeah.
No pick back?
No,
Nothing?
Why would they do that?
What about... Because I don't... I'm not trying to give up more picks for Grant Williams, bro. I'm sorry. Is this your like we need a Jay Crowder asshole in the locker room? Is that kind of where your mind's at?
So Grant Williams is 6'6" and 236, and for his career shoots.
He's rotund. Yeah.
Yeah. For his career shoots 37% from three in the regular season and 43% from three in the NBA playoffs. It's not that easy to find big guys who are capable three-point shooters. So
I know.
At some point you have to either sacrifice assets for them or pick them in the draft and hope to become those kinds of players in the future, which is something the Suns still could do. But they do have long-term money with Jusuf Nurkic that if they're going to find a way, and you could solve the center thing other ways. I have trades that could potentially do that, for example, that I'm going to throw at you as well. Mm-hmm. To try to get a better starting center. Maybe, it really is kind of a Grant Williams trade. And yes, I understand that that's not overly exciting. And to be frank, my trades are varying levels of good. It is not easy to come up with something realistic for this team that is a home run. It's just not easy.
No, but you're talking to me, right? Like you're not talking to a crazy... Well, maybe you're talking to a crazy person, but
it depends
a different
on
type
the
of crazy
month.
person.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what I mean is, I'm here to be pragmatic. I'm not expecting a sexy name necessarily. Grant Williams in particular, there's something about him where it's like, I think he's one of those guys who just like talking on defense doesn't mean you're good at defense. And when I watch Grant Williams, I'm like, sometimes question his actual ability.
Let me make
that. Like, is he actually a two-way player? Or does he just bark? I think there are differences.
Let me make a change to the trade and see if you like it more. No 2024 pick. Same
but
trade.
The 2031 pick?
We include the 2031 pick, and they give us the 2027 Dallas pick that they got, which is protected 1 through 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So they have a pick.
That's better.
I'm not sure they would do this, by the way. But if they're saying Dallas is going to be good for a while, they have Luka Doncic. The Suns might suck in 2031. We're willing to give up that 2027 Dallas pick for this unprotected 2031 pick. The Suns could pick a player this year, and then they have a tradable pick in 2027 that is Dallas's pick.
That's better. Yeah,
I don't know if they would do this, but it's just one of those trades where the Suns actually end up with 2 picks, which they had in the past, but have now traded Nurkic, who I think played himself out of the rotation potentially in the playoffs at the very least, and maybe could be, I don't know what'll happen with Nurkic. Maybe he'll be a lot better this year. I don't know. He was pretty good in the regular season, and then it was a disaster in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. Let's do some more free agent names.
More free agents? All right. This next tier, I'm actually glad we started with Grant Williams because this next tier is reuniting with Bud, and it's 2 specific players who are in that Grant Williams mold of let's go out and get a 6'6", 220 pounds guy.
Okay.
In Grant Williams' case, that he's a little bigger than that, but you understand what I mean. Like, how can the Suns go out and get actual wing size and not just be a roster of 6'4" shooting guards, right? Like, we love Royce O'Neal, but he's 6'4". We love Grayson Allen, but he's 6'4". We love Josh Okogie, but he's 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
I would like Josh Okogie to stay on the roster, even if it's on the third unit.
Right.
But he's 6'4". We need actual guys who are 6'6", who can body up or bigger, but who can body up a little bit, who can shoot. And they don't need to be lockdown defenders, because if they were lockdown defenders, they would be making more than, again, $2 to $3 million. But they need to be capable, just a little bit capable on both sides. And there just so happen to be 2 guys who have both played with Mike Budenholzer in the past, who are free agents this summer. The first one you've mentioned to me before, his name is Taurean Prince. He's coming off a solid season where he started a good number of games for the Los Angeles Lakers. The second name is definitely more of a gamble. I brought him up on playback lately, and I don't think you sounded too excited when I brought him up in that context, but I will do it again. Jordan Nwora, who obviously won a championship with Bud on the Bucks, having not contributed great minutes to that championship run.
Yeah.
But having been a guy who was a regular season contributor, right? Jordan Nwora on the Bucks is still, I'll pull up his age real quick for you to give you an idea. But he's your classic, 8th, 9th, 10th man type guy when he played for Bud previously, who got cut on the margins when it actually came down to winning series. But that was a couple years ago. He's now 25 years old. He is 6'8", 225 pounds. He is a career 38% three-point shooter. And there you have it. He most recently got tossed in a trade between the Indiana Pacers and the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
And he's an unrestricted free agent. Do you have any particular feelings about either of these 2 guys?
I like both of them.
Who specifically fit a specific physical profile and also have experience with Coach Bud?
I really like both. I think that if you get both of those guys in your free agency for minimum contracts, look, there are varying levels of success when it comes to what the Suns are working with. That would be a success. That would be a actual success. I'm not sure that either of these guys are capable of getting more. I think Jordan Nwora is most likely going to be a minimum contract player.
Definitely.
I think Prince, there's a potential that Prince gets more. There's, the tax-paying MLE, which is like $8 million. Maybe he can find a team to give him that. Probably not. But if he does, he's going to take it. And if he doesn't and you get him, you basically take him away from the Lakers, because I'm sure the Lakers want to keep him at a minimum contract deal if they can keep him there. Then I would consider that a success for the Suns, considering they worked together before. He's a good player. Lakers fans had problems with him. That was more of a roster issue for them. I think that he would be a perfectly fine player coming off the bench as a minimum contract for the Suns. Both of those guys, I think that would be a relative home run, if you want to call it that.
I actually just looked it up. They have the exact same career three-point shooting numbers. Both of them are at 38%. Taurean Prince this year for the Lakers, he played 27 minutes a game. 9 points, 3 rebounds, 1.5 assists, less than a steal. But like, a guy who can give you a little bit of everything. I will say about Taurean Prince, if you look at his stats, definitely has to be one of the worst rebounders for his size in the NBA. Traditionally, not a guy who, even if you go back to like before he was playing on a team, for instance, with the Lakers that like to run two bigs a lot, even before that, was not a guy who's grabbing, like 6, 7, 8 rebounds a game. For his size, he's more in the 3, 4, 5 range. But he could definitely play some defense. He can definitely shoot. And the Suns need that.
I like it. Good work. Let's say the Suns did trade Nurkic for Grant Williams, and they did re-sign Royce O'Neal. Now they have Grant Williams, Nick Richards, no Jusuf Nurkic, no starting center. Grayson Allen, $15.625 million. By the way, Grayson Allen can't be traded now, can be traded later. So at some point before the season starts or after the season starts, we'll say, they do trade him for Wendell Carter Jr., and his $11.95 million. Wendell Carter Jr. signed next year. He's signed, or this coming year, and one more year after that on a declining salary, which is less than $11 million in his second year, but only 2 years. And Grayson Allen signed a longer extension, so it's a longer contract. So then in that case, I would say that the Suns could potentially ask for the Denver 2025 first round pick, which is protected 1 through 5, which Orlando owns for some reason. So in this case, and this is one built for you, by the way, right? I'm trying to build a trade for you.
You're really trying to be, you're trying to flatter me. I feel courted. This is
Grayson
great.
Allen, $15.625 million. Obviously, we know his contract 4 years. Wendell Carter's 2 years. Wendell Carter becomes the starting center for the Phoenix Suns. The Suns also have one more first round pick that they could potentially pick or trade in a future trade. What do you think?
Yeah, I do it. I really like Grayson Allen, so like I'm not giving him up lightly. If I could just trade Jusuf Nurkic for 10 picks, then I would do that in an instant. But the reality of this team is you got to give something to get something. And if we're talking about getting assets back while still keeping the team competitive, I mean, I love Wendell Carter Jr. I hesitate a little bit. I'll be honest with you. With Orlando's rationale for doing this, I know that they need shooting desperately. But what are they going to do about their center position once Wendell leaves? Are you thinking maybe they're one of those cap space teams? Could they then go and bring in like Claxton or Hartenstein or something?
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario.
Oh wait, no, they can't
good.
do that. Sorry, they can't do that because this trade can't happen until October, right? So this is the difficult thing about this is
they
Orlando
could do
can't
it.
pull.
Sure,
but
they could do it.
Yeah, but like, come on.
It was just me going, Wendell Carter's probably on the trade market now. Everyone would know it. It would just be something that the Suns would have to agree with.
Yeah, the fact that this trade can't happen for several months makes it really tricky. Because Orlando needs to have another really competent center on the market when you're trading these two guys of different positions.
What's easier to find?
In terms of pure value, I like it.
Grayson or a center? Like, I feel like the center market is a little bit better right now if they're trying to do that. So the question is if they're willing to give up a pick. Maybe that is just me being a little crazy here, but honestly, it's not easy for them to attract free agents. If they're free agent signing, quote unquote, this offseason because they're taking extra money, so they would be eating this into their cap space if they're able to hold on to it. For Grayson Allen, that would be a pretty good move for them. And they're desperate for shooting, like seriously desperate for shooting in that team. Grayson Allen would fit right in. So the potential of a Suns starting lineup, of course, could be the big three, Grant Williams and Wendell Carter Jr., for example.
I don't think there's any right answer to this question, but like just follow along my train of thought. Would you rather have Grayson Allen and Nick Claxton if you're the Magic, or Malik Monk and Wendell Carter?
That is pretty fascinating.
Because the free agent class that this is why I wanted to bring up the names to you before we got into all this, because like those archetypes just so happen to sort of fit perfectly into what Orlando needs. They could get the Grayson Allen type player by throwing a bag at Malik Monk.
Yeah, but
or they could get
a different type of player.
It is a different type of player.
Because I think you think about all the LeBron comparisons that Orlando fans are throwing at Paolo, which whatever. We all know they're being fun. They're having fun. Let him have it. He needs one of those guys that can run around screens and catch and shoot if they really want to build a team around a guy who can pass that's that tall. Malik Monk can do that. He likes to cook, though, in a way that look, sometimes it's good.
Likes to cook.
It's the thing that people
their
that
offense
Kings fans
sucks.
didn't like about him.
Their offense sucks, Mike. Like they have they're a good team now that made it to the second round and all that, but they got bounced in the first round. What am I saying? But their offense sucks. They need more guys who put the ball in the basket.
Grayson Allen's pretty good at that. They're trading for the best 3-point shooter in the NBA on a team that's desperate for shooting. So, I did something for them. They can't get mad at me.
I would do it.
I successfully built 2 trades that you were open to. So I look forward to people telling me how unrealistic they are.
Wendell Carter Jr. Under Coach Bud is going to shoot 50% from 3 on 10 attempts per game, and he's going to totally solve all of our spacing issues. And while also being like, he's not an unathletic, can't move his feet at all type guy, right? Like it's a happy medium. Mm-hmm. It's not like getting 36-year-old Brook Lopez.
Yeah,
I would be really happy with this trade.
All right, what do you
got? Let's go to centers. We're on the topic of centers. So we talked about point guards. We talked about wings. I'll just throw out a couple names for you on the center position. Number 1, my guy. Actually, both of these guys, Orlando Magic. This is perfect. I don't know how we keep doing this, but these segues, they're just so good. Number 1, my guy Mo Bamba. Brought up Mo Bamba before.
Fine.
Is Mo Bamba? Yeah, sure, fine. Is that what? That's all we're gonna get.
That's
out
how
of Mo
I feel
Bamba?
about Mo Bamba. Yeah. I think he might suck, if I'm being honest.
So I think there's a 50% chance if the Suns bring in Mo Bamba, and let me just read out his stats to people on this past season. So he played for the Sixers, 57 games, 17 starts, only played 13 minutes per game. You know what? I think it's actually more helpful. 13 minutes per game if I read the per 36 numbers and just take these.
They work for your narrative better here, right?
No, not to propagandize. This is just to give people a mere taste of what we could be seeing. Per 36, Mo Bamba this year with the Sixers, 12 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 39% from deep on 3 attempts per game. 68% from the free throw line. This is what's interesting to me about Mo Bamba is, when players come in from college, we say so much, you got to look at the free throw percentage. If a guy's free throw you don't look at the 3-point percentage when judging college prospects. You got to look at the repeatable motion that's simulated in a free throw environment. And if you see that improvement over the years, that's what's going to tell you that guy's going to be a 3-point shooter. And then you have players like Mo Bamba who continue to shoot like 65% from the free throw line every year, but he's also a 38%, 39% 3-point shooter now, which is kind of weird to me.
Well, 64 total attempts last year. And he has had years where he shoots more. Don't get me wrong.
Season before, 39%. Season before, 38%. This is 3 years in a row that he's done this, though.
Yeah, it's true.
3 years. 3 years. You only say meh to Mo Bamba, and I understand.
Yeah,
I think there's a 50% chance that we sign him to a minimum and he's really bad. I also think there's like a 15% chance that he becomes the Suns starting center, averaging 15 and 10, and just like is Brook Lopez.
Okay,
that would be really fun.
I mean, he's 7
let
feet
me
tall.
hold on to that.
He's 7 feet tall and he shoots threes. So, like, sure, yeah.
He's 7 feet tall with like a 7'10" wingspan.
Yeah, it's
Mo
hard to
Bamba.
say no to that. I think that I'm not sure he's great, but we'll find out, I think, there's a 50% chance we'll find out, apparently. So we'll see. Who else? You
need to believe ultimately the sticking point here. You need to believe that he's actually a smart defender and not just a long defender who blocks shots. Because, there have been cases, obviously, for the Suns in the past. Guys who can block a shot, they can jump high, but can't play in multiple systems. JaVale McGee comes to mind. Like JaVale McGee actually was a really good rim protector.
Very good on the Suns. Yeah, his last good season.
Not a versatile. Yeah, and he's actually a free agent too. If you want JaVale McGee, but I think he doesn't have any juice left.
Yeah,
he's done.
Yeah.
But even JaVale McGee playing well on the Suns couldn't really play versatily defensively, and Mo Bamba, in all likelihood, would be the same way.
You can talk me. You can talk me into Mo Bamba. I'll give you the opportunity. We're gonna have time before free agency.
Last guy, for centers, since we're staying on the theme of the Orlando Magic, is also my guy, but I think he's your guy too. I think this guy's more like your guy, and that's Goga Bitadze, who started games this year on a good team while they had sustaining injuries. He started 33 games this year, Mike, and I don't have off the top of my notes here their record in those 33 games. I would love to pull it up for you.
I can find that. Continue to talk about him. I'll find it.
I don't have it. But he had 33 starts. Look, protects the rim really well. Protects the rim, finishes at the rim. Nothing more to this guy here. But, I think you're talking about, if you actually want a smart, competent defender
17 and 16.
17 and 16. The Orlando Magic, who are a team that their like quote unquote star power is entirely led by these under 25 guys who haven't really proven anything yet. They went 17 and 16 this year when starting Goga Bitadze, who previously had basically no starting experience in the NBA. He started a few games for Indiana here and there, but not really anything significant. I think it's a huge deal that he was able to sustain, or rather that team was able to sustain their play with him in that role. So, if you're looking for guys where they gave you a little bit of something promising this year and you want to see if you could capitalize on it and build on it even more, again, this is also a guy who's only 25 years old. So maybe you have something you can build here.
Yeah, I watched a few of his good games. It was just one of those things where I just coincidentally watched the Orlando Magic at times where he was playing really well. Now, the stats don't really point to a great player, but you're talking about a backup center here. I think he becomes more interesting if the Suns have a starting center who's not Jusuf Nurkic, right? So, because I do think a lot of this, he's not a scorer, right? Goga, which is similar to Nurkic, where you're not signing him to be a scorer. So he becomes a little bit more interesting if you have maybe somebody like Wendell Carter Jr. starting for the Suns, and then you have Goga coming off the bench. Now you have a guy who can kind of facilitate the offense. He doesn't have a ton of assists, but the types of passes he can make, you can see those types of things increasing if he was on a different type of team. And he's just huge. He's just another guy who's huge that could set massive screens and assist you that way.
Yeah, let me see. What's he listed at? He is 250 pounds.
I might be more excited about Mo Bamba. You might have talked me more into Mo Bamba.
You like Mo Bamba more than Bitadze? That surprises me.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other thing I was going to say about Goga, he tries to shoot. He's got 241 attempts in his career. He only shoots 25% on
He's
them.
not a shooter.
So
you can counter that.
It's an experiment that multiple teams have tried with him, specifically the Pacers, though, more so than the Magic. But even the Magic let him fire away sometimes. And to this point has not provided fruitful. Maybe the right shot doctor fixes it. I wouldn't count on it, like you said.
You want to hear a trade for a center since we're on the center conversation here?
Let's trade for a center.
Nazir Little and this year's pick, 2024 pick, the 22nd pick of the draft, for Walker Kessler.
Oh, yeah.
And a minimum contract from the Utah Jazz. Walker Kessler lost his starting job on a bad team to Taylor Hendricks, another rookie who's 6'9" and 210 pounds. Walker Kessler has not developed at all offensively. Might just be a really bad player offensively. But he's also very young and was picked, by the way, 22nd in the draft just a few years ago. So you'd be essentially trading the same pick for Walker Kessler, giving them Nazir Little on a team who has to get to the salary floor, probably not going to sign a lot of free agents, and giving him another chance at the draft. And maybe they get more for him if they put him on the market, but maybe not. Like they get a pick this year in one of their rebuilding years where they can pick a young guy and try to build him. What do you think?
Walker Kessler that's already a great outcome for, the 22nd pick.
That's how I view it, right? You're basically picking Walker Kessler with your 22nd pick, right?
Also, so the thing is, like Walker Kessler, how old is he? Is he 20? Like, he's 22. Okay. He's 22 because I wasn't sure if he was like 20 or 24, somewhere in between. He could very well be for the next 10 years just Sam's Club Rudy Gobert, like Sam's Club Rudy Gobert. Even that is a pretty good outcome, though, for the 22nd pick. Like, that's already pretty good. And also, you talk about his lack of offensive skill. I don't disagree with you. But that Utah team, and honestly just the Utah team, how they've been built for the past 2 years, for the first 2 years of Kessler's career, who on that roster is supposed to feed him the ball?
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's supposed to look good on offense playing next to Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton? They're, like, it's just not a roster built for him. And you could argue, like, in some ways that maybe the current Suns roster, like, you know, if he's playing with Chris Paul...
No, I'm kidding.
Campaign. Kyle Lowry with Walker Kessler, they could get buckets. Like, I'm sure Chris Paul would turn him into like a 15-10 guy easy. And maybe Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal can't do that. But I am sure that Walker Kessler is going to get better looks playing next to Devin Booker and Bradley Beal than he did next to Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton. I think he's going to be just fine. The defense just speaks for itself. He's a tremendous rim protector, like 95th percentile rim protector already at the NBA, and he's 22 years old. I think you do this easily.
The question is, does Utah see any value in trying to develop a player like Nasir Little while they're bad right now? You know, the rest of the Western Conference is like just a bunch of juggernauts. And do they see value in saying, okay, Nasir Little hasn't been very good. He's signed for a few more years. We got to get to the salary floor. Maybe we can turn him into something over these next few years where we're trying to rebuild. Because that's the only way that a trade like this would go through. Because essentially you're giving them the pick that they picked him with a few years ago. I don't think that the pick value... I think a lot of people would say Walker Kessler, like he was whatever. He had votes for Rookie of the Year in the year that he was drafted. You can't get him for one first-round pick, but I think you probably could, I'll be honest. I don't think his value is that high. I mean, he's not... He can't shoot free throws. Like, he can't really do anything unless he's right next to the rim. He's a very good defender, but he needs time to become a better player. Maybe Utah's willing to do that, but they're not willing to start him. We know that for sure.
What people don't understand is that flatlining or slightly disappointing, like sophomore slump guys or other guys in their rookie contracts, they depreciate like cars, right? Everyone believes if it's just one bad season, everyone can overlook that, and that guy still probably retains some value. So maybe that's where Kessler's at right now. Once it becomes 2 or 3 straight seasons in a row of no improvement, though, like not that linear progression that you're really looking for, like you can go from, oh, that's Walker Kessler, they're going to ask for 4 first-round picks for him, to like that guy's a salary dump. And it happens like that. Yeah. Because the only thing that they're being valued on is not their actual impact on the court right now, but it's an equation of potential.
Their ability to get better year over year, which he did not.
Potential is the most important variable, and if you're not showing that potential, then it just disappears really fast. So
it could be a bad trade for the Suns, to be honest. You know, like it's the kind of thing where it might be that he's just not good, but it's also possible that you can tap into whatever magic was there in his rookie year, and at the very least, you'd have a change of pace defensive center off the bench that can do a lot of the things that you want guys who can protect the rim to do. So I'm glad you like it. I'm really nailing the trades for you so far.
Well, that might mean that they're all unrealistic. So
it's very true. That's what I'm saying. Like I count on everyone to tell me that. You know,
I do like them so far. You know, I think that one's probably
the
most
pretty realistic,
of a stretch
though,
so far.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
I think you're trying. I think you're putting
in.
I think you're putting in a good effort. I'm being unrealistic when I say we're going to get Walker Kessler, and then Bud's going to turn him into a 40% 3-point shooter. Walker Kessler, career 55% shooter from the free throw line. I don't think that is a guy who's going to become Brook Lopez, but you know, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, it's probable that he's not going to be able to do anything like Rudy Gobert. I mean, you made that comparison. I don't think he's anywhere close to being on that track, but I understand what you mean. Offensively, he's probably a lot like Rudy Gobert.
What was Rudy Gobert in year 2?
It's a good question. It's possible he's been a better free throw shooter this entire time, but he can't do anything basically outside of the paint. So Rudy Gobert, 49% his rookie year from free throw, 62% his sophomore year, and 56% his third year, and then he's been in the 60s ever since. So it's really, he's never been a great free throw shooter, but he got better. He's effective. Mm-hmm. All right, you got
enough
some more
to
names?
Not be intentionally hacked.
Yeah.
I do have more names. I have many more free agent names, but we're already over an hour here, and I want to cap it for today. If you don't mind, and if the listeners don't mind, I've got some other names here. You know, these aren't too much of a stretch. So if you're someone who's really locked into free agency already, you're already looking at these names. I'm sure you have many of the same ones that I do. But you know, some of these guys I think we're going to get to on a later episode. Some of these bargain bin finds, if you will.
Yeah. I'll I have 2 more trades that I'm going to throw at you then, and then we'll end it.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Okay.
That sounds great.
Grayson Allen to the Chicago Bulls with Alex Caruso and Corey Kispert coming to the Suns.
Oh, a 3-team trade.
And then someone like Io.
Maddie, tell him.
Io.
Pick up the phone.
Or Javon Carter going to Washington, and then potentially some version of because Alex Caruso and Corey Kispert are both on the last year of their deal, if the Suns can find a way to extract any sort of second round pick or something from the Bulls, then that would be going to Washington to give them a reason to give up Corey Kispert here. So this one's probably a little unrealistic. I'm trying to come up with the 3-team trade. It's very hard. Maddie, tell him. So I'm just saying, if you can find a way to get some version of Alex Caruso and Corey Kispert. Corey Kispert's not a high-value player, I don't think, as far as assets. There's not going to be teams giving up a lot for him. What do you think? Probably the team, I'll say right now, that it won't do this is Washington. But maybe they like Io. So I don't know.
What is Washington gets Io for?
Or Javon
Kispert?
Carter,
like
yeah, something like that. And if you can get any picks out of the Bulls because Grayson Allen's on a 4-year deal, then you send at least a second-round pick to Washington to
yeah, I mean, it's solid. Caruso's not perfect, obviously, in the sense that he's like, I talk about that shooting guard problem that the Suns roster has, and he's another one of those guys, but his impact is undeniable. Like, he is just like this point of attack presence that the Suns don't have in any of their current 6'4" players. So he would be another one of those guys. And then Kispert, incredible shooter. Incredible.
One of the best off-ball shooters in the NBA by the stats.
Such a James Jones acquisition if they get Corey Kispert. I'm going to use this opportunity to bring up one free agent name. This guy actually is not on my list. I didn't put an asterisk next to his name, but I hovered over the name Doug McDermott. I almost called him Doug McBuckets. Hovered over the name. He is out there. Feels like a James Jones signing, doesn't it? To go out and get Doug McDermott, see if he has any juice left to squeeze. Just like a 6'6" guy who is just an incredible shooter and maybe nothing else.
Yeah.
Corey Kispert's a little bit better than that, no doubt. And he's also young, which McDermott is not anymore. But yeah, I think selling Washington on this would be tough because Kispert is young. And Io is also young, so it's like where's the value for them?
What do they want Kispert for? What do they want any of these guys for? I just
don't they?
Kispert's 25 years old. Right,
they're
now.
trying to be good. I think.
No, they're not. They're definitely not.
But aren't they telling people that they're trying to be?
They
good?
need at least 2 years more of being bad. I feel like.
Yeah,
at least.
So you're saying by the time Corey Kispert's the type of player who. Let's be honest, like he's going to be lucky to be in the NBA for 8 to 10 years. He's not probably going to be a guy who's still playing at 35.
Yeah.
So if you're Corey Kispert, the idea that you're now 27 years old and the Wizards are still bad is probably pretty scary because you want to actually compete for something.
Yeah.
Right? Is that kind of what you're getting at? Like he wants a smell of the playoffs while he still has that burst.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's good. I like it. I think they probably don't go for it. But I understand what you're saying that like what do they want him for? Like what do they need him for?
The trick for me
it's hard.
The trick for me, because the Suns can't take back any more than what they send out, was building a team, and maybe somebody else can do this listening now, was building a trade where the Suns get Alex Caruso and then another player from another team of value without exceeding the combined salary between Alex Caruso and that player, without exceeding Grayson Allen in his contract, which is, by the way, I think maybe they should have structured it differently because it's a contract that goes up, which saves money for Matt Ishbia.
Well, actually,
but if they would have had a descending contract for Grayson Allen where the most money he makes is this year, it would have been a lot easier to build trades around Grayson Allen, more in the total tax bill potentially if they keep him, but easier to make trades if they ended up trading him.
You're now touching on something slightly more interesting in this trade, though, that I hadn't previously realized, which obviously Kispert's going into his 4th year, and he was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
So he's extension eligible, and he hasn't signed one.
That's true.
Now maybe like there's the hook, right? Does Washington want to pay Corey Kispert $15 or $20 million or whatever he's going to ask for? Maybe $15 million. I don't know if he's a $20 million guy. But do they want to pay him that much? He just averaged 13 points per game on really good shooting. If they're still going to be bad.
Exactly.
And is Matt Ishbia willing to cough up that cost?
And Alex Caruso is also
maybe he's just crazy.
You know,
right? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be great if you could swing that.
And then lastly, one more question for you, and then we'll go. How many picks would OKC? How many picks would OKC have to include for you to trade Grayson Allen for Josh Giddey and Kenrich Williams?
Oh, I can get both?
Yeah.
Really? How much does Kenrich make?
You can get both. It works.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll believe you. I
don't have the numbers, but yeah, I checked.
No, that's okay.
Kenrich makes less than you would expect.
So give me Giddey, give me Kenrich, and give me a second-round pick this year, next year. Can I get 3?
3 second round. You're not going to ask for any of their first-round picks. They own like 18.
Do they own 18 first-round picks?
So it's like an insane amount of first-round picks. That's all I know.
Okay, give me a protected first and a second, and that's probably I can live with it.
Do you know how good they would be with Grayson on that team, though?
All right, give me a protected. You're right. Maybe I'm underselling.
They'd be so good with Grayson on that team, and maybe they don't need him. Really like good. they have cap space.
They have Isaiah Joe.
I mean, Grayson's like this like evolved version of Isaiah Joe. Like, think about all the times they had to bench Giddey because he couldn't play. And now you're putting the best 3-point shooter in the NBA in that spot.
I mean, they would probably sustain like an offensive rating of like 125.
It would be absurd. Floor. Yeah, I'm not even saying they would be
pretty absurd. All right, what about Grayson Allen for Josh Giddey, Kenrich Williams, 2 protected first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. Now do we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, will
the Suns be good? Probably not. And Josh Giddey's not that fun to root for right now. But it's just one of those things where I'm trying to look around in the league just to defend myself before people get mad at me at bringing up Josh Giddey. I'm trying to look around in the league and trying to find a team that would want Grayson and seeing what you could extract for them. And that's the exercise that I was doing here. Yeah. Now that we've done all this, we're gonna have more free agent names later. We're gonna have more fake trades most likely, but you probably have
more draft
some
coverage too,
and more draft coverage. You probably have some too, people who are listening. So feel free in the Discord, on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever you'd like to put it. Tag us in it. I'd like to see those fake trades. I'd like to see those free agency names, and maybe you'll think of something that we never had the opportunity to think of. By the way, one thing I will mention: if you're trying to come up with fake trades, Spotrac, that's how you pronounce that word. I don't think I've ever said it out loud, right? The sports website. Use their trade machine. It's the only one that does some semblance of trying to figure out the second apron rules. And that means it doesn't let the Suns take back any more, and it has updated salaries. So use that trade machine if you're going to make fake trades. It's the only way to get good ones. You got anything else before we go?
I don't think so. We'll talk to you guys again in a few days. Thank you for listening as always.
Well, I should say,
anything else?
I'm going out of town. I will not be available for a Patreon podcast. So no Patreon podcast this week. Check out the NBA Finals. I'll be back the following week, and we'll get a regular episode up after that, and then continue our extra episode Patreons next week.
Possibly some finals playbacks if people are interested once you come back from out of town. Sorry, I forgot you were going out of town.
Yep.
And I mean, I have a feeling a lot of you aren't going to watch the NBA Finals, but for those of you who do,
let's watch together.
For those of you
let's suffer together.
Who want, exactly. There you go.
Hate watching. Thanks, everyone. Back soon.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.